About 1 year ago, the Future Trunks arc of Dragon Ball Super ended. This arc was very polarizing, to say the least. You have plenty of people that absolutely adored this arc, and then you have plenty of people who absolutely loathe this arc. Well, whatever side you may be on, it's still safe to say that this arc will definitely be remembered throughout the years. And it's kind of funny how 1 year later, I'm still talking about it at least. I know a lot of people are more so focused on the Tournament of Power, but about a month ago I was really thinking about this long and hard. Like, is Zamasu that good of a character? Now, if you guys don't remember, Zamasu was the main villain of the Future Trunks arc, and he was very well praised among the fandom. Whether you loathe him or not, it's still safe to say that Zamasu was one of the best received parts of this arc. Like, many people dislike the ending, but they love Zamasu, or they dislike the structure of the arc, but they love Zamasu, or something along those lines. And to me, I'm just thinking, why? You know? Like, I mean, for a Dragon Ball villain, he was okay, I guess, but he just felt so underwhelming and disappointing for what he was kind of hyped up to be, when in reality he was something completely different. And I know this video is going to get a lot of disagreements, so I'm asking, if you do disagree, please at least try to watch the whole video and see like both sides of the argument, and maybe like give your thoughts as well in the comment section down below, because I would like to hear everyone's take on this topic. Because even though you know, the Tournament of Power is going on and everything, I think it's still fun to look back 1 year later, because 1 year later you get a better understanding now that the hype has gone away and everything like that. So without further ado, let me just kind of give an idea how this video is going to work. So the video is going to be kind of split up into maybe a few parts. The first part, which you're about to see, is going to be me basically giving my reasons for why I don't like Zamasu and why I think he's a failed character. And then afterwards, I'm actually gonna have someone play their audio sample, because before recording this, whole video, I had 3 people who I'm about to list off, when their time comes. I had 3 people who gave their own take for why they like Zamasu. So this video won't just be a one-sided argument. You will legit hear a Dragon Ball debate among both sides, and I think both sides, I think the other side is definitely gonna bring up great points, as will you guys in the comment section down below. I guess since this is sort of my channel, I can have as much freedom as I want with it. I'm going to be obviously defending the negative side of Zamasu. So without further ado, let me just get onto my side and discuss why I don't like Zamasu as a character. First off, let's start with the execution of Zamasu. The execution of Zamasu is very disappointing, to say the least. Zamasu in the beginning was kind of played off as a type of Dragon Ball villain we haven't really seen before. The only one that had been kind of similar to him is like Baby in Dragon Ball GT, but even so, the execution of that was kind of mediocre, to say the least. With Zamasu though, he seemed to be quite an interesting character, as now with Dragon Ball Super expanding the universes, we get like an extra insight on another type of universe and another type of Kaioshin, showing they're all not the same. And I found this concept really interesting. And when we were seeing the beginning of Zamasu, he was portrayed as this little different, a little more pessimistic Kaioshin than what we're used to like, the Supreme Kai and Universe 6 and whatever, Universe 7, everything like that. It wasn't all that bad, but then as we see, Zamasu just kind of turns, he sees the actions of mortals, and he kind of just becomes evil for the sake of being evil. I understand they were trying to showcase, like, his backstory and everything, but I still feel the execution just felt flat and bland and generic. Despite being such a so-called complex character, I just feel, with the way he was being portrayed, there was literally no real build-up. It just felt like it was going from one thing to another immediately. I felt if we were to maybe have a scene where maybe a few more scenes with Zamasu and Gowasu, where we see more of Zamasu's positive side, and then the more interactions we're seeing of him, the more kind of negative he gets. And I guess they were trying to portray that with the whole Super Saiyan 2 Goku versus Zamasu fight, and the Zamasu like viewing the giant like monsters or whatever. I don't remember their name, but they were fighting and he was just like disgusting. I'm like, whoa, that's kind of a big jump. And I understand, that Goku fight kind of annoyed him because it messes with the balance of mortals and humans, and he tried to portray himself as something he's not. But at the same time, it's like, well, you're kind of just jumping from one thing to another. I don't know if it was Dragon Ball Super kind of rushing the pacing here, because the Future Trunks arc is really only like 22 episodes or something like that. I felt if they maybe stretched it out a little longer, we could have seen more of this character and more of his build-up, so we feel more of an attachment rather than just seeing something be forced, like these events being forced, shoved down our throats just to see him. Oh, hey, he's evil now. You know, and that's it's a big thing. I just feel the execution felt way too rushed. The execution felt so bland. I feel if maybe they spent a little bit more time on it, he could have been better as a character. Now, my second point for Zamasu, why I don't like Zamasu, is kind of the journey, I guess, we're seeing of him. So like I said, after the average to mediocre build-up that he had, we then go to him kind of allying with Black. I felt like this could have been maybe a good moment in the series where he kind of loses all control and kills Goasu. You know, we do see him kill Goasu, but I don't know if it was Goku Black, but we do see them do that, and Zamasu, he just kind of like, he's scared, but then his true colors start to show, and like, I don't feel like he should be happy. If this is a so-called tragic character, then why is he all like relieved and everything? Like, I understand he's having this dislike towards Goasu, but I felt if we could have maybe gotten a moment of just like pure silence, no music, everything like that, where Zamasu just evaluating, like, oh my gosh, he's gone, and I'm alone. And then that's maybe where Goku Black comes, and Zamasu just kind of ignoring Goku Black, like, you're horrible, get out and stuff. I feel if we had a little more symbolism with Zamasu's turn of a new leaf, it would have maybe portrayed a little better. Like, this is what I was kind of looking forward to the Dragon Ball Super manga, because I know the manga comes out after the anime, and I was hoping, okay, maybe they'll do it right. No, it still felt bland nonetheless, and I don't think this character can really be done right. Who knows, maybe there'll be some fan fiction out there where he will actually be done right, but I doubt that'll happen. So it comes down to so many aspects for Zamasu. Just his turn of a new leaf just felt so anticlimactic. It feels so sudden. It just feels so shoehorned in, if that makes sense. I don't know. This is kind of me rambling. I'm gonna be fairly honest, but regardless, though, the turn of a new leaf from, okay, yeah, you were kind of you're having this dislike towards Goasu to immediately, okay, yeah, I'm working with Goku Black. We're eliminating the future. That flashback was really only like maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes, and then we just see the present immediately, and I just felt like that wasn't very well done, in my opinion. You could have done better Toei, you could have done better Toyotaro and Toriyama and everything. So after the whole Goasu middle, beginning, middle, what about the ending? I think the ending of Zamasu's character was okay. I didn't think it was great, I didn't think it was amazing, but I get that they were trying to show at least a little bit of symbolism there of power will corrupt you. No one in this world can, like, try to aspire to something that they can't, like, literally be. No matter how you try to pursue things, if you go about something the wrong way, you are going to fail. And I felt like that was the message they were trying to portray, and I like what they were doing there, but it's just like, yeah, sure, you had a good ending of the character, especially like with Shinichiro Miki's brilliant performance as Murder Zamasu especially. I just feel if the beginning part of your character is already kind of slow and doesn't really go that far, then how's the ending gonna pay off a little more? I felt like the ending was already pretty a solid take on his character. It's just like if we had a little bit more build up in the beginning phases, he could have maybe just been overall a more satisfying to see gone. Like when I think of a great villain, I think of like Chrollo Lucifler or Toguro or Sensui, both of them from Yu Yu Hakusho. Chrollo is from Hunter x Hunter. I think of Don Quixote do Flamingo. I think of all these brilliant villains, even though the last one isn't too similar to Zamasu. I felt like others could have been just a little better. With the way Zamasu was being portrayed, I felt like he was just kind of trying to be a so-called light Yagami, but overall ended up coming off as a whiny, Kaioshin who was just a bad sour apple who just had he had a motivation, but it just felt so generic. It felt and it's funny because he tried to be this complex character, but in the end he just felt like a pretty villain, you know. Like, I know there's plenty of those people who have plenty of counterpoints, but I've said enough for kind of my side, and now I will introduce the first person who I picked out for kind of giving their audio out. Please welcome Rakurai Network. So he's basically going to give his reasons for why he likes Zamasu / thinks Zamasu is a good character. And I have listened to it before. Trust me, guys, he brings up some great points, so listen hard.
Zamasu is incredibly interesting to me, and not so much because of the explicit details of the character, but the implications and things that we can derive about him. He has this strong sense of justice, similar to Gohan, but almost flipped on its head in this instance. Zamasu's idea of justice is that violence in itself between mortals is impure, and that said violence creates an impression of indecency in the kind that is mortality. He wants this perfect world, a world where people simply praise the gods and live in harmony, but he feels that this violence serves as a deterrent from it. One of the things that makes Zamasu so appealing to me is many of the things people complain about him for. People ask me, isn't it stupid that Zamasu hates violence then goes out of his way to commit acts of violence? I reply, yes, but that's kind of the point here, I think. Zamasu is so caught up in himself, his own plans, his own ideologies and pride, that he forgets that many of the things that he hates about the mortals end up being things that he himself does. This is the most apparent, I feel, with the character of Goku Black, or Present Zamasu from the Unaltered Timeline. Goku Black and Future Zamasu have a very interesting contrast in my opinion. This is most apparent in their conversation about immortality. Future Zamasu inquires of Goku Black why he did not become immortal, to which Goku Black simply replies that his power is enough, and that he simply wants to go stronger. In fact, he even says that he wants to toy with the mortals to make sure his strength gets to its peak, which is why he didn't just kill Goku and Trunks from the beginning. Small side note here, he makes this clear with how he lets Trunks and others beat him up in certain instances where they couldn't before. I don't think it's an issue of power scaling, I really think it all goes back to this said conversation that I think a lot of people overlook. However, focus on this. Future Zamasu cares about the title, the status, the semblance of godhood, whereas Goku Black cares about the same, but similarly to Cell, his newfound Saiyan instincts are getting the better of him. Saiyan pride is one of the most complex and deep themes of Z and Super in my opinion, and with both Cell and Goku Black you can tell how even with a being who is not a Saiyan, if their traits are in any way intermingled with Saiyan traits, the Saiyan pride takes over and wins that internal struggle. Goku Black becomes a pawn of those Saiyan cells, just like any other being like Cell, I believe. However, this reveals a lot about Zamasu. Zamasu's ideals can very well change given the circumstances. He allowed someone who switched bodies with a mortal to be part of his Zero Mortals plan, not to mention that Goku Black himself was never made immortal. Despite, again, the name of the plan being the Zero Mortals plan, Zamasu is willing to switch up plans in order to get what he wants, oftentimes without even realizing it. He has a very small soliloquy where he starts going on and on about how mortals and gods and such, and Goku Black remarks that no one is listening. Zamasu replies that he knows and he doesn't care. He doesn't care if people find his ideals reasonable. Heck, he doesn't care if we find them reasonable. Zamasu is complicated because he doesn't consistently do things in his right mind. This potential push to insanity makes itself the most clear in the state of Merge Zamasu. He starts losing his mind in certain instances where I feel the fusion failed lies purely in the fact that the fusion was far too complicated. You have two gods, but one god who was mortal with Saiyan cells running through them. This was a recipe for disaster. It created an antagonist who toys with opponents but still wishes to kill them quickly. It almost seemed like Merge Zamasu, especially in his purple goo form against Vegito Blue, I know it's not called purple goo, but cut me a break here, was his own worst foe. And as Gowasu explains, it was this internal struggle that makes him so amazing as a character to me. He comes across to me as a take on the general fiction mantra of mortals are bad, kill them all, but even more insane, more uncontrollable, and more crazy. I loved every second of it. That this was sort of like an outline, so I know I started and made very bad sentences here and there, but you know, you get my point. I love Zamasu. I think he's great. I think there's a lot to this character that people overlook, again, mostly going back to that immortality conversation. And again, I'm very biased because Zamasu is probably my #1 villain in Dragon Ball ever, I'd probably say. So I find a lot of depth in him that many others don't, and there's nothing wrong with anyone disagreeing with me on that. I just want to make that clear. That's just my own thoughts on the character, and yeah, I love Zamasu. Zamasu did nothing wrong.
Zamasu did nothing wrong. That's an inside joke in the Dragon Ball community if you guys don't know. But anyways, like I said, that was brilliant, Rakurai. Definitely, I think you guys understood both sides of the argument now. So this video isn't entirely biased. It's an open question with two sides of the argument being shown to you guys. So I feel like Rakurai, once again, did bring up good points, but to kind of respond with what he was saying about the whole Goku Black situation, while Goku Black is technically Zamasu, I still consider them different enough to be, different characters as a whole. While, they have the same background and everything, Goku Black is just way too different in terms of personality and everything for me to even put him in the same vein as the disappointing Zamasu. Goku Black fits for the context of Dragon Ball. Goku Black is very simple, he's straightforward, and he's also so ruthless. You remember the scene where he pretty much tells Goku, yo, I murdered Chi-Chi and Goten? That was a very stepping stone. That was a huge moment because it showed that this Zamasu arc can be really dark if he wants to, and I'm like, wow, that's certainly something. And then with Zamasu, it's a little weird because even though he's this hypocritical character who kind of goes with his downfall, I felt like he didn't have as much of a rise as I would like to see. I felt like his rise to power could have stood out a lot more. Maybe, like I mentioned with the whole Gowasu killing idea earlier, about him like having a little bit more of a tragic response to the death of Gowasu. I felt like maybe a little bit more of that build up, and then that makes the downfall of his character come full circle a lot better. And I feel like with Goku Black, it's just Goku Black works, and I do like what you were saying about the whole merge Zamasu being a huge failure for Zamasu, because even though he thought this could be a stepping stone for them winning the battle, ultimately, no, the mortal side of Goku and like the Goku Black and the cockiness and everything like that, the mortal and the immortal, they didn't really combine well together, and ultimately Murder Zamasu failed due to his own actions. I like that symbolism they were going for there, but I feel nonetheless the middle, the beginning, and I guess towards the it was only until the final battle where we're like, okay, yeah, Zamasu's not that bad, but like, if there's no build up to his character to begin with, then what's the point of paying off in the first place? And nonetheless, though, I still think that was really well done, Rakurai. I think I brought up my counterpoints as well. So we're done with that first section. Now we're going on, or second section. Now we're going on to the third section, which is once again another audio sample, but it's obviously from someone different. It's from Aaron W. Gamer, otherwise known as Aaron Woodland. I will have I'll also have Rakurai's link in the description below. Follow him on Twitter and YouTube, and I'll have Aaron's link in the description below for his Twitter. So definitely check that out. And Aaron, why don't you give your thoughts?
The main reason Zamasu appeals to me as an antagonist is because even though he doesn't go through a great deal of development throughout his arc, when we do see development from him, it's incredibly blatant, and I'd say it's backed up by consistently strong writing and presentation. I've seen many people who dislike Zamasu's character compare him to characters who start off pure and neutral and well-intended, and become twisted and evil over the course of their character arcs. However, I don't think that really does Zamasu's character justice, because that's not what he's supposed to be. Zamasu's character arc doesn't take him from pure to evil, because from his introduction, Zamasu is already shown to be an extremist. Instead, his development focuses from shifting him to someone with an extremist mindset, to someone who's actually willing to act on those extremist beliefs. The first key point of development for Zamasu is when Goku challenges him to a fight, and he sees that mortals not only are arrogant and completely dumb by comparison, at least in his view, but they can also full-on pose a physical threat to even gods like himself. Gowasu then, being the complete genius he is, proves Zamasu right by showing him barbarians beating the crap out of each other, tries to prove that they can evolve and adapt over time and become more civilized. So they jump into the future with the time rings, and of course, they haven't evolved, Zamasu was right, and when attacked and provoked by one of these things, Zamasu still hesitates, because you can tell he's still not completely willing to act on his extremist beliefs, and this is where his key point of development comes in. Once Zamasu has killed this barbarian, you can see the expression on his face is completely zoned out and almost confused. You can tell that Zamasu's never taken his extremist beliefs this far before, and this is really the moment where Zamasu snaps. After this, you still have Zamasu and Gowasu's debates just to push him a bit further, and seeing Goku in the Universe 6 tournament clanned in God Key, as he put it, on GodTube. And there's always stuff like that afterwards to provide a bit of an extra push to make it seem more substantial. But killing the barbarian and finally acting on his beliefs is where Zamasu snaps, and that's when he becomes an extremist, both in mentality and in action. I've also heard the argument that Zamasu, even though he does have some decent development, is just boringly characterized and generic, and you can't use Goku Black's entertainment appeal to justify his character, But that doesn't really make sense because Goku Black is a continuation of Zamasu. They're presented alongside each other eventually, and Goku Black's even revealed first, so it would make far less sense to assess them separately when they are very much a collective. Zamasu provides the backstory and the build-up, whereas Goku Black provides the entertainment factor. Black and Zamasu's fusion also takes Zamasu into the next stage of his development and final, which is into a completely crazy egotist who has no valid points to make and goes insane. The idea of Zamasu falling apart both physically and mentally could have been presented poorly, which would have made his characterization fall apart completely towards the end, but thankfully in the anime version we had both Mickey's performance to back it up. Plus in episode 66 there was some really strong artwork from staff like Manabe who made Zamasu look like a complete monster, which matched Mickey's performance perfectly.
Those were definitely some fantastic points there, Aaron. I think a lot of people can agree to that, like how everyone did with Rock Rise and everything. And Aaron brought up fantastic points, but I do have counterpoints, I guess, to each one. So for starters, with the whole, I guess, kind of growth of his character, Zamasu realizing, and then Gowasu kind of like, yeah, they're kind of bad. Humans are kind of bad too, so, you know, it's whatever. And then we kind of see sort of the growth of the character, and I get what you were saying, where the point of Zamasu isn't to show purity evil, it's to show like someone who has an extremist mindset to actually put that mindset to play. And I get where you're coming from there, but where is that mindset legit coming from? Like, I get, you know, it's for the sake of the plot, but where is he getting all this from? It seems like he even has this mindset, like, building up even before he encounters Goku and the barbarians, but I don't know. It just feels way too sudden. I felt if we could maybe gotten a little bit more insight, maybe he saw like several events leading up to it. I guess the sort of prior event was the whole Universal Tournament. He maybe saw why maybe universes fighting together was pointless. I could think that's maybe the only sort of previous build-up. Like, what? Is it literally only 3 events that caused him to turn a new leaf? Like, come on now. Or, heck, even one event that caused him to maybe become that extreme mindset. And I feel that's just kind of out of nowhere. Like, did we just get, like, one bad Kaioshin on a tree or something? Like, I just don't feel it works that way. Maybe if it is something... maybe he was pure or a good-hearted one like Supreme Kai, but he's been through a little bit more stuff. He's experienced a lot harder. The situation was tougher for him. I felt that could have been better because it wouldn't have just been so coincidental for him to become evil for the sake of being evil, or like having that evil mentality for the sake of having that evil mentality. I just feel it wasn't really portrayed all that well. And as far as like the character growth goes, I disagree with you on Goku Black and Zamasu. I feel like they're not the same due to how Zamasu and Goku Black are individually characterized. They are way too different enough for me to consider them kind of the same entity, because even though they are kind of two sides of the spectrum, and even though they do fuse to create a new being, it just doesn't feel according to the plot if they're the same character. Yes, I know technically they are, but I personally consider them different enough. Like, I like Goku Black a lot more because he portrays another side of this person. I feel as if his actions can't justify Zamasu alone, because the way I see it, it's Zamasu and then MrZamasu, because MrZamasu, let's be real, he takes more of Zamasu's traits. There's a reason he's called MrZamasu and not like I don't know, Gokamasu or something, you know. I feel Goku Black was just kind of played off. I feel like Goku Black, since he was shown technically a little bit less, maybe that's why I like him more, like a little bit more of the mysterious, simple aspect to him that makes him a lot more appealing, a lot more fun, especially for the context of Dragon Ball, whereas Zamasu just portrays as someone who's whiny, someone who's a complete like failure. Like, I understand the whole point is to show that Zamasu is corrupted, the whole point, and when you're corrupted you kind of become a hypocrite in that regard, but I still feel with the way they were trying to portray it, his execution felt like he was just whiny all the time, him repeating the same sentence over and over, humans are evil, and that our mortals are evil, and I feel that constant, I get that you're sticking to your plan and everything, but if you're constantly going to repeat yourself over and over to the point where we're getting sick of you, yeah, that's not complex characterization, that's just Toei and everyone dragging the plot on, in my honest opinion. But regardless though, those are, I think you brought up some great points, I think I brought up my fair share of counterpoints, and now we go into the final phase. And guys, this section of the video is going to be a little different than the rest because it doesn't have an audio sample that I'm going to let play out. I'm actually going to be reading off of someone's direct message because this person, he wasn't able to get an audio sample set, so he basically sent me a direct message that he kind of wanted me to narrate or show, and I figured why not. I still want to get your opinion on this, so, you know, whatever it takes, dude. So basically, this person is Alex, the Gaming Claw. Follow him on Twitter and YouTube, guys. Guy makes some fantastic content and really some interesting tweets, along with the other people in this video. And yeah, let's just hear his opinion. So the thing about Zamasu that some people may or may not realize is that he's a hypocrite. He's constantly talking about justice and true judgment, etc., but from his actions he is literally doing what he disgusted so much of mortals. But another thing that you have to keep in mind is that Zamasu wasn't instantly evil. He just questioned the actions of mortals and why they, Kaio, didn't intervene in potentially making some several worlds better. Yes, he could have gone down the Super Dragon Ball route and wished for peace, but that is where things get interesting. Instead of doing that, Zamasu opted to show the mortals he despises a taste of their own medicine by giving back to them what they've been doing to each other their whole life, and of course the barbarians were the best example of this. It's like seeing all this conflict throughout his life. Embedded itself into Zamasu. Instead of going down a route of true justice, he turned himself into the very thing he despised without even recognizing it. He was arrogant and thought that his way was the right way because that's all he's ever known. He has never seen his true justice in action, so he took matters into his own hands based on the experiences, which again is based on the aggressive actions of mortals, and of course turned him into the Zamasu we know now. And I also want to add in, because he mentioned this, he added this on later to his DM, so I just thought of this. When Zamasu is taking over the universe, I'm certain he says, "I am the world," almost like another indicator that he became the very thing he was trying to destroy. He became the embodiment of hatred among humans. I definitely think that Alex brought up fantastic points in his DM, and of course, you know, I narrated, I had to change up my voice a little bit, so there isn't too much confusion, even though I sound like I don't know, you guys know where I've come from, but Alex, that was really well written, and, you know, I had to think about it for a while, like how I'm going to respond to this, because you brought up fantastic points that are definitely hard to be countered, but I have figured out some solution to kind of counter them. But regardless, though, let's just get into it. So, like you were saying, the thing about Zamasu, he's a hypocrite. I agree with you there. He's definitely a hypocrite, but I feel like a lot of the times he's a hypocrite, and there are times where he should be aware of it, because I understand he's doing what he thinks is right, because in the end, I think what makes a great villain great is that they think they're the hero of their story. When in doubt, it's really just our perspective that makes us think that, let's say, you know, Goku and all them are the heroes. If this was written in the perspective of Zamasu, he would be the good guy, and, you know, the Goku and all them would be the evil ones. So, it's all based on perspective, and I get where you were coming there, and this is why I love villains like Sensui, Crollo, and everything like that. They think they're doing the right thing, but in doubt, like, they aren't really evaluating their actions, which make them a little bit more of a tragic hero when they do eventually fall. Like, even though, you know, Crollo hasn't really fallen yet, but you get what I mean. And I feel like these types of villains in anime and entertainment as a whole are definitely some of the best. And I feel like Zamasu, he was trying to be something like that, but there are times where I feel they could have done a little bit more with him. Maybe have a moment where someone is trying to evaluate to him, like, yo, think a little bit right there. Because I think there are moments definitely in other anime where someone trying to brings it about to them, like, yo, are you okay? And then they aren't really used to someone neglecting their ideals, especially someone that they somewhat trust. Like, maybe if Goku Black was coming at Zamasu in this situation, maybe he could have broken or something. Maybe he could have had a moment where he loses control or whatever, because he's so used to everything being perfect. I felt this could have made it a little more come together full circle, if that makes sense, a little better. I like what you were saying, though, about kind of, instead of wishing for the Super Dragon Balls, to maybe wish for another thing. He wished once again to have kind of Goku's body at the time, to kind of give back to the mortals, like, show, yo, you guys are pretty bad, and the big thing that, like, nonetheless, it could be me that kills you, but at the end of the day, you guys are going to kill yourselves, essentially. That's how incompetent you guys really are at the end of the day. And I like that he was, it's definitely dark that he killed Chi-Chi and Goten while he was in Goku's body, to show them, like, yo, mortals, they're terrible, and you guys aren't making any better. You guys are the hypocrites. He thinks he's the one that's in the right here, but nonetheless, what he's doing sometimes just feels so one-sided, one-dimensional, if that makes sense. I understand he goes through conflict and everything, but there are definitely times where I feel he's just being evil for the sake of being evil, or feeling that way for the sake of the plot or whatever. And I understand, you kind of need to do that in entertainment, but it's depending on how if the viewer can really see through that, because if they can see through that, you're not doing a good job with your writing, all I'm gonna say. And when Zamasu's taking over the universe, he says, "I am the world." Definitely, he is certainly evaluating, like, he thinks he's in the right, like I've been saying, but at the same time, there are definitely times where I felt he could have maybe had a little more. Definitely with what he was trying to come off as the villain. He was a villain of his arc. They could have done so much more. I guess it was mostly a pacing issue, and that's why I was mostly looking forward to the manga, and the manga ended up being even worse than the anime, which is why I was so let down by it. Nonetheless, though, I think Alex brought up some great points along with everyone in this entire big video project of mine. In conclusion, Zamasu is definitely one of the more interesting Dragon Ball characters, despite how we all may feel about him. There's people who think he's a lot more positive, and I can tell that's going to be kind of the general consensus. And I wouldn't be surprised if this video gets a lot of dislikes, to be honest, but it doesn't really affect me. It's whatever. And then there's plenty of people like me who thinks he's nothing more. He just he tries to be something that doesn't fit within the context of Dragon Ball, and ultimately feels like a disappointing villain all around. And overall, just repeats the same statements over and over. There's not too much growth of his character. It just feels way too sudden, too shoehorned in, whatever. I've given my reasons. You guys have seen other people's reasons as well. Does your opinion still stand? Does your opinion change? I don't know. I want to hear everyone's perspective in the comment section down below. This is probably the biggest video I think I've ever made, and you know what? I would love if you guys maybe share this video out, support it, maybe like, subscribe, comment, all that wonderful stuff, because this definitely is these big videos are so crazy to do. Like, they do definitely like take a while, but when they actually come out, I hope that you guys can maybe give your thoughts. Hope you guys can hopefully support it and give the attention I think it should deserve personally. Like, I don't mean this to sound egotistical, but I just feel it's necessary, to be honest. But nonetheless, guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please check out all the guys all the guys that I mentioned. I'll have their Twitter and their YouTube if they have one in the description below. Go check them out. Like I said, check out my Twitter as well, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to talk to you guys later. Ninja out. Peace, everybody.